possible right at the beginning of the episode. No big deal. Y'all know what's up. We're here. We're live. We're doing it. I'm in my blood gear because my blood is hot. I am ignited. I am on fire. I've been in a bad mood all day. Look at the graphic right here. The graphic that I'm about to show even has a red stoplight at the top. So, I thought it was fitting. I thought it was fitting for me to show up like I usually do it, going wild, going crazy. Okay. We got a lot of different things to talk about today. I wanted to say first, I apologize for being I've not really been doing the shit. I've had a lot of personal stuff going on that has really taken me away from doing the podcast stuff. I'm trying to do better every day, trying to get on the grind, edit, do podcasting. It's a lot of work. But we're here today, so that's what's important. Let me set the stage. Let me set the stage for the episode we're about to do today. So I was driving to work, minding my own business. It's a Tuesday. It's a short week with the holidays, so I'm almost halfway through my week. Minding my own business. I look down to my phone. I'm playing Tool on my phone. I'm playing Tool. Some good some good prog rock, prog metal, getting it going right. And I look down, I'm like, okay, I'm going to change the song. I look up behind me. All of a sudden, I see a black truck veer behind me. I see the flashing red and blue lights in the grill. And I'm looking up for a minute. And I'm kind of taken aback because I'm like, I don't think I was speeding or I had totally forgotten about the hands-free driving thing that's being passed. That is enacted today as I am recording this episode. So he puts the signal over. I put the signal over. By the way, I'm pulling over on the left side of the interstate, which is dangerous. I mean, I almost ran over a piece of glass or plastic. It was not it's never a safe place to pull over, right? They never care about that. But pull over. So I pull over. Out of the car comes a police officer who is not even in uniform. He has the badge around his neck. And he comes up and he gets my information, explains the situation. I was lucky to get a warning on this time, but he did take my information and I had to sign a paper and he gave me a copy of another paper. He gave me a copy of this beautiful graphic that, killed however many trees to print, in the day and age of technology and electronics, they still feel the need to give these out, but whatever, this happened. But it just irked me. And I wanted to kind of just do an episode deep diving on this. I did a post earlier today. First of all, I want to just kind of comment on the whole undercover cop thing. First of all, it's a slimy trick. And it really just shows the true intentions of this thing. Like all government mandates, like all government actions, it is never about actually helping the citizens, actually helping the community. It is the same bottom line that it is for everybody, which is get your bag, get paid. I'm going to take these chains off because it was good for the appearance, but serious episode of the what the fuck? But it's so easy to pass off as an undercover cop. All it takes is some smart ass to put lights in his car and to buy a badge on Amazon or eBay or whatever. They come in, take your information, they say they're a cop, and they drive away. And they take all your shit. They take all your information, and your identity gets stolen. This isn't me being hyperbolic. This is something I have actually heard about happening. There are cases of women who have been pulled over by what appears to be undercover cops, and then they end up getting abducted and sold into the sex industry, or the black sex market or whatever, right? So I mean, there's a real conundrum with that I find. But you're on your way to work. I didn't really have the time to find the nearest police station. If I really wanted to do it right, I probably should have asked him for his badge number. But again, you're rushing. You're on your way to work. They're the ones that have the power, and there's really a lot you can do. And they always paint it as this, like I was saying before, they always paint it as like this, oh, we're just here helping the people. No, they're trying to make money. This is a scam. This is not Kim Reynolds and the police department doing this for the good of mankind and for the betterment of people. This is not why they're doing this. There's one of the articles that I was reading in preparation for this. Although death fatalities have slightly increased over the last 4 years, they are still not at the high point that they were in 2016. So it's not even like, there's like so many, like, it's not like it's continually growing, right? The death rate, right? And we actually, I did crunch some numbers. I crunched some numbers in preparation for this. Before we even get into that, let's just go over, for those who don't know, for those who aren't educated, maybe you haven't heard of this before, let's just go over what this all means. So, hands-free driving means you can't hold your phone in any way. You can't manually scroll, type, or interact with your phone in any way. Also, this doesn't apply for, one of the articles I read specifically says that it does not apply to government officials. So that's cute, right? Police officers have a fucking laptop in their front, their front, but God forbid you change a song on your phone. You can't enter in an address to GPS while driving. And that's another thing, like, as a delivery driver, as a former delivery driver, like, there is a skill to texting and driving. I'm sorry, there is. People don't like to admit it, but there is a skill. There is a method. As someone who is a delivery driver, as someone who had to constantly put in, as I was driving, and answer my boss and answer customers, like, had to constantly be on their phone while driving, never got in an accident, there is a way to do it. I'm sorry. People like to think that, like, it's impossible to do it. There's a method, okay? Again, this is why this should be at the discretion of the public, the people, the citizens, and not the state. But anyways, continue. You can't stream videos or make video calls, even with voice commands. Okay, fine. You can't view text, videos, or social media. You can't call, text, or dial unless using hands-free or voice activation. Now, one of the main problems that this raises is there are people. I mean, I'm lucky to have a vehicle where I do have that capability to, if I need to. Although I don't know, I think I still have to, like, use my phone to talk with it. I don't know if I can actually do it on the dash. But there are a lot of people who do not. Maybe not a lot. I don't know. They probably don't have a statistic on this, right? But I mean, in the economic climate that we are living in, right? According to Rob Sand, we are 49th in economic growth or whatever in Iowa. Like, there are plenty of people who is going to be difficult for them to afford technology in order to not have to use their phone. Like, that is a whole thing that they're either going to have to install in their car, or they're going to have to buy some kind of cable or whatever. And you can say, yeah, well, it's only $20, right? But, like, it's so convenient because the state, they're not going to supply that. They're not going to set this program where they're like, oh, hey, maybe we could, like, if you need technology to transition to this. No, they're not going to do any of that. They're just going to lay down the law, enforce the law. That's all they're doing. You know why? Because it's a money game. That's all they fucking care about. This is a scam. Okay, let's read this article from IPR, or Iowa Public Radio. I thought this was actually pretty revealing. We already went over what these mean. Are there fines? For the first few months, law enforcement will only issue warnings starting January 1st, 2026. They can issue citations with $100 fines. And Dinkle said the initial grace period is to help change driver habits and educate the public about the new law. So I'll say this. When I was driving home today, back from work, after this morning I had this situation, I did not look at my phone. I put a podcast on, I set my phone down, and I drove. I was not educated. I did not learn something new. I've been taught for a decade plus the dangers of texting and driving. The dangers of texting and driving. This was not education. This was fear. Fear that I would get another get another warning. And, you know, they didn't say this in this article, but I'm sure if every day you drive with your phone, every day you get pulled over, they that's gonna count for something, right? And you know, it's funny, even the officer that was like, he's like, yeah, it's the first day that we're enacting it. It's a big day. It's a big day today. Oh yeah, buddy, I'm sure it's a big day for you. I'm sure your sergeant, your chief said, hey, go scare as many Iowans as possible to fucking tell them that, oh hey, if you don't do this, we're gonna steal money from you. Make sure you do that. It's like the fucking when they have quotas. I mean, they're gonna have quotas for this too. I guarantee it. I guarantee they're gonna have quotas for the phone thing. They're gonna be like, oh hey, you only pull over 3 people. Nope. You only pull over 3 people that were on their phones. Nope. You're not meeting the quota. The same slippery slope of that whole catastrophe is gonna apply to this. I guarantee you. But let's keep reading. Too many people are comfortable the minute they get behind the wheel. That's the time to be scrolling. That's their time to be scrolling their devices, checking social media, responding to emails, he said. We need to get back and change that driver behavior to make sure that people are not tempted to grab these devices. Now, I think that's just like a gross oversimplification. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm older. Maybe I am wiser. But I highly doubt that the minute people get behind the wheel, oh, now I finally get to look at my social media. Now, oh, this email. Now I get to respond to the email. What? I haven't had time all day to respond to the email. But when I'm driving, now I'm going to, like, no, man. I feel like most of the time, and again, this is my experience. I could be full of shit. But when people are using their phone on the road, they're trying to find where they're going. They're communicating with somebody in a way that is required so that they can find where to go. Or they're doing something like I was doing where you're just like trying to find a song. Like, oh, hey, I'm going to look at the phone. Like there's like a method to like continuously look up. I'm just saying, okay? This is bullshit. Sorry, I'm just kind of skimming over this because there was one piece at the end that I thought was really important. Okay. Which kind of goes into what I've been talking or want to get into. According to data from the Iowa Department of Transportation, there were more than 900 crashes last year caused by drivers distracted by their phones or another electronic device. Currently, 31 states ban handheld cell phone use while driving. Okay. So there are 900 crashes. So I actually pulled this. Before I started, I actually pulled this up. I took all of the data from 2024 of all the accident data. And it said this. So there were 53,325 crashes in the state. So I guess if we do the math quick, that's like if this figure is true that 900 crashes were caused by drivers distracted, that's only That's like less than 2% of the crashes were caused by this, which definitely isn't good. But like, you know, like like what you're gonna go through all these steps, all these loopholes, all these restrictions for 2% of crashes. Now let's look at the data that I pulled up, that I found. Okay, actually let's pull up this other article here. So for non-fatal accidents, according to, and this is something I find really interesting too. Like I could not find a government website that would give this information. I could only find it from law sources, like law websites. Maybe I'm just a shitty researcher. But that's all I could find. So this is from Walker Billingsley and Bayer. These are, I don't know if this is this is in Iowa. Okay. 5 most common causes of car wrecks in Iowa. These are non-fatal from what I understand. Distracted driving, fatigue driving, drunk driving, speeding, and aggressive driving. Which is interesting because, you know, I found like varying things. Like I went to multiple different sites and like what actually was like the top was like it seems like the data just isn't like 100% accurate or isn't 100% there. So like this just seems like, you know, and I didn't actually watch the video, but I know Kim Reynolds kind of put this into law. So, you know, she's by no means a mathematician, right? She just kind of it's like it's the logic of like taking kids' phones away in class, right? Oh, these phones are so dangerous. We need to take away the phones. We need to take away the phones. But anyways, so fine. Let's say they're the top. It's the top cause for accidents. Even though if you compare the figure of that we saw in the IPR or the IPR article, where it says there were 900 crashes from it last year of 53,000 crashes. That doesn't really sound like 50%, but whatever. We'll just take that at their word, right? So let's do this. So total occupants, total number of people affected by accidents last year was 120,358. And out of that, there were 356 fatalities. So 356 people died. Now, if you divide those numbers, if you do the math and divide those numbers by the total population of Iowa, which is 2,245,000, or 2 point, I guess, not 2. I can't read my writing. 3.241 million. That comes out to that comes out to 3.7% of the population being affected in total by accidents, and even less than that. So if that's 900, that's like 0.3% or less than 0.1%. So the accidents affect the population total of 3.7%. And the fatalities affect 0.01% of the population. Look, this is a money game. Here's the thing. If the state of Iowa, if the Department of Transportation, if the Des Moines Pig Department actually wanted to do things that would make an impact on the safety of driving, you know what the first thing I would do? Park outside of bars. Park outside of bars. Affects way less people, affects way less of the population. You are targeting members of the population that are going to be using alcohol, more likely to use alcohol while driving. And then having just like an enforcement of like, and I don't by any means support this as the anarchist, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to like look at this and just think like, okay, what's the best way for everybody make the roads safer? If you're thinking that worldview, that is what you would do. put cops outside of liquor stores, put cops outside of bars. Every time a person comes to the bar, you give them a breathalyzer. Or you don't even give them the breathalyzer, because sure, that costs money too. Just observe people. If somebody looks shit-faced, say, hey, you're not driving tonight. Even give them, you even want to give them a ticket, you even want to do that shitty thing, make yourself a little money, go for it. Fine. That is going to help. And let's look at this. Let's look at this other article quick. So the main causes of fatality crashes in Iowa. 2/3 of fatal crashes were the cause of aggressive driving. So not even drunk driving, just aggression. Look, you're telling me that, because I've driven aggressively, I will admit. You're telling me that someone that's aggressively driving is like, oh, hey, Twitter, look, I'm recklessly driving. I'm aggressively driving, Twitter. No, they're not on their fucking phone. They're fucking keyed in at some motherfucker who's pissed them off. The phone has nothing to do with that. Second is drunk driving, which makes up for 30% of fatal crashes. Third on the list is distracted driving, or what we would call, really that's vague, but let's just say that is cell phone use. I know eating kind of goes into that too. It's an unknown percent, conveniently, but it makes up at least 10% is what they say. So you're going to look at what makes up 10% of fatal crashes. Aggressive driving, sure, you can't really police that. Drunk driving, which makes up 3 times more of the amount than distracted driving of fatal deaths, of fatal car accidents in Iowa. Like I said, like that plan I laid out, that is something that the police could actually do. Not something I, as an anarchist, agree with, but that is something that they could actually do to minimize drunk driving and to actually make the roads safer. But how much money do they make out of that? Not a lot. Not a lot. It's even like when you're pulling people over with the undercover cars. You know what? A really good way to get somebody off their phone? Seeing a police car, seeing a police vehicle. That will tell them real quick, oh, hey, I better not have my phone out because there's a fucking cop behind me. And again, if your quote unquote job as a police officer, as a servant to the public, is to protect people, quote unquote protect people, that would be a way better, way more sensible option than slimily getting into an undercover car and catching people. Ha! Gotcha! Gotcha! That is dishonest. It's a scam. It's them trying to catch you in the act. It's not about helping people. And you can think, oh, well, they're catching people in the act to help people. No, they're catching people in the act so they can make fucking money. Yes, I understand that we have warnings in effect until June 1st. Even though, I'm sure funds have been diverted. I'm sure there's some kind of bonus incentive for cops, or like I said, we have quotas to meet. Like all these things are based on some kind of funding, right? But look, when this isn't going to change when the 1st of February hits. We're going to keep seeing this kind of stuff. We're going to keep seeing all the corruption that goes into the quotas and just the conduct of the police department. Here's yet another mode that they can take people's rights away by the cell phone. And in this day and age, not even arguably, like 100%, the most personable thing that is on a person, that it is attributed to a person, right? At what point, here, let me ask you this. At what point do they start taking those away from people? They do it in school. They do it in classrooms. At what point does, a couple years, couple decades down the line, we start saying, maybe if you, violate this too many times, we'll take away your phone. Very expensive piece of technology too. But I mean, like, look, for my job, I literally could not work if I didn't have my phone. And I'm not alone in that. I would say for a majority of the population, that's the case. But we're trying to keep you safe. We're trying to keep you safe. This is what is so destructive about the state, is they always use the guise of we're trying to protect, we're trying to protect, we're trying to protect. When really what they're doing is we're trying to get money, we're trying to get money, we're trying to get money. This is a scam. This is not to save people. This is not to protect people. This is simply a money scheme, period. Okay, let's move on. I've ranted on that long enough. I thought I would comment on this because, I have, for a couple weeks there, been pretty loud about Rob Sand's stance on education. Look, I mean, until this video, I liked the guy for the most part. I thought his stance on campus was reasonable. After seeing this, I'm a little worried about Rob Sand. I like him a lot less. The language that he has in this video is very draconian and very authoritative. And it very much sounds like he wants to control education far more than what it was before. And like I said initially, the first half of the clip is like already what we discussed. So like, I don't want to get into that again, but Rob's claim, as he's always made, is that, the reason we don't have school choice is because private schools get to set the price, and they get to pick their students, which makes no sense because schools don't pick their students, especially private schools. If any school in a way picks their students, it's public schools because, you live here, so you're forced to go to this school. So the logic of this just doesn't make any sense on its face. So not only is he doubling down on that, he goes further with it. And look, like I said before, I agree. I don't think private schools should be getting public money. When Kim Reynolds first passed this thing, I highly objected to it. I thought, no, there's no way this should happen. But instead of just making that simple criticism of like, oh, hey, maybe private schools shouldn't get public money, he now seems to be taking the ball and going to the complete opposite end of the court with it. So let's go ahead and watch this, react, all that goodness.
And the answer to me is call the bluff of the people who claim that they like school
I'm calling
choice.
the bluff.
Because under this program, what school choice means is schools, private schools, get to choose their students. They get public money, but they don't have to take the public. If you want to have school choice, great. Every private school.
Here's the thing. I think if people in the public had money, they would take them. Like, this is a very like leftist thing where like they view like the elite as like this thing, and they're like, oh, they're excluding everybody. It's like, if everything was privatized, there would be layers, there would be tiers. But instead of that, we have a public option that undercuts the entire lower class market or the lower market or the middle market, whatever, and then just leaves an upper market. So he's already framing it incorrectly, but anyway, let's keep playing.
If you want to have school choice, great. Every private school, if you take public money, you take the public. And if you want to complain, well, it's really hard to make an adjustment when somebody comes in just the day before school starts and says, well, I want to go here too. Welcome to the challenges that public schools face every single year, right? If you want...
What's the solution for this, Rob? what's the solution? More public. So here's the thing. He's acknowledging how shitty that is. Like, oh, someone comes in the first day, he's like, oh, I need an education. Because like nowhere in the market would be, it would basically be like, oh, I guess we can't do this. Also, the whole idea that like you have to start school at this certain time is another byproduct of public schools. So like in the free market and in private market, if someone like couldn't start school, okay, well, we have another opening, like, you know, it's a continual thing, or there's another school that opens later. There's that option, right? Nothing's perfect, nothing's utopian. But what Rob is looking for is not utopian either. It's actually the complete opposite. So, yeah, let's just keep playing. I fucking hate that I did this on Twitter. Let's even just go back. Let's go back a little bit.
When somebody comes in just the day before school, if you want to complain, well, it's really hard to make an adjustment. When somebody comes in just the day before school starts and says, well, I want to go here too. Welcome to the challenges that public schools face every single year, right? If you want public money and you want competition, well, competition is where everybody follows the same rules.
Okay. First of all, no, that's not what competition is. What? You're telling me that all these businesses, like all, you tell me all these businesses follow the rules? All these companies follow the rules? No, they make their own rules and they figure shit out. The only thing that makes the rules for them is, again, the public sector. I forget what my other point was with that. So yeah, if you want public money, so and that's the thing that like this is the point where I disagree with him on, or like kind of agree with him on, I should say. Like, yes, I agree that it's stupid to like want public money and the competition. But then the solution is then take away the public money. Let the public schools be the public schools. Let the private schools be the private schools. But no, this doesn't fit with the leftist democratic framework. And let's keep watching the clip because he goes even further down this train.
If you want public money and you want competition, well, competition is where everybody follows the same rules. So private schools, if they're going to take public money, should have to have an audit. We should be able to see where public money goes. They should have to have open meetings. They should have to have open records, right? If they want to have a different curriculum because it's a private school and that's kind of the point, I can appreciate that. I can understand that. But they should have to take the public and they should have to follow the same spending rules and professional obligation rules as public schools.
Okay, so this is what I found. Let's actually just finish the clip.
Right now in the state of Iowa, you can do literally anything on God's green earth as a private school with public money other than pay a rebate. I have rung people up as state auditor and as a prosecutor for doing things in public schools that are now legal for private schools to do in Iowa with public money. That makes no sense.
And look, here's the thing. I guess watching this again, he doesn't specifically say that we should just do this to private schools. But the language that he is using where he says that these private schools should be subject to all these things that public schools are if they get public money. And again, he's not saying that they just shouldn't get the public money. He's almost saying that we should continue to give them the public money, and then we should also make them essentially public schools. This is a very scary, very draconian messaging where he talks about willy-nilly, just talks about this idea of like stepping your hand, grabbing in, and just controlling the entire state of education of Iowa. First of all, I mean, like we said before, his whole framing of competition is skewed. His whole framing of the idea that schools pick their students is skewed. But he has to set it up that way, in this dishonest way. And look, the guy follows me on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter. I'm not the only person that's criticized him for this. So there's no way at this point that he doesn't know that this is just false. that he's not just selling a pitch point, a leftist Democratic pitch point, knowing that it's inaccurate. There's no way. Unless he literally is just not that competent, which then he shouldn't be governor. But look, I think he did a lot, like Rob did a lot of great things with like the state auditing stuff and targeting corruption, all these things, which I applaud him for. I 100% applaud him for that. But what he is proposing now is he's proposing a system that is just going to lead to more corruption. Look, like he pointed to like he rung people up in public office for doing this in public schools. Fine. You think that problem is going to go away if you increase the public? You think that like that's going to happen less? Look, and like I said, like I've said a million times, if you want to make the argument, take the public money away from the private school, I totally agree. But he's not making the argument. That would be such a simple argument to make. Let's just not give him money. Okay. But no, that would not further his agenda. That would not further his public school agenda. His agenda of we need to have all education unified. We need to have everybody at the same standard. This idea that if everybody's at the same playing field, that's competition, that just makes no sense. That makes, like, it's the leftist idea of like, oh, hey, you have a race and everybody has to start at the starting line. Life doesn't work that way. There are people who start ahead, there are people who start behind, and we all compete. But that's what makes this country better than other countries in that. That's why we have innovation. That's why our lives are so much easier. It is not because the government sets a starting line and makes everybody start from that point. It's because people have advantages, people have disadvantages, and people use all those things to make things better for everybody, to make everybody's lives easier. This is a leftist idea. This is a dangerous leftist idea. And personally, it made me really look at Rob Sand in a really negative light after this. I really saw this clip and I was like, damn. He really is just another Democratic sleazeball. He's just another government person. He's another candidate. He's another politician. He has no soul. Not that we have souls, but you know what I mean. He doesn't have any being in him. He just wants his bottom dollar. And I didn't look this up, but like most government officials, right? Who are always, they always say like, hey, like, the people in California or whatever, they'll be like, they'll take away gun rights, but then they'll promote police, but then they'll have private security. I would be really curious to see where his kids go to school. Do they go to school in a public school? Do they? Or do they go private? I don't know. Let's look it up. Let's not on Yahoo because I need to get rid of McCafe because it's fucking all my shit up. Where do Rob Sand's kids go to school? I cannot find it. Oh, here's a fun. Oh, this is Kim Reynolds. The one time Kim Reynolds actually had a good post. Rob Sand, from Kim Reynolds. Rob Sand keeps misleading Iowans about school choice. Parents, not politicians, chasing headlines control their kids' education. Not that she's free of that either, but I mean, yeah, she's not wrong. Okay, last thing before we wrap this son of a bitch up. I thought I would talk about the water problem. Dun dun dun, more of the water problem. So this is from the Des Moines Register, and afterwards maybe we'll do one more thing after this because I thought it was really funny because we've been pulling up a lot of the Des Moines Register. Central Iowa Water Works says splash freely on 4th of July, but please don't water your lawns. Oh no. Oh, no, not the lawns. Oh, dear God. Dear God, don't water the lawns. Use the public parks, use the public splash pads, use the public pools, but no, don't privately water your lawns. Oh, no. You know those nitrate levels that we talked about? Nope, not a problem anymore. According to this article, if I can find the button, we want your kids in the water. And we want you to go play with your kids in your water. Do slip and slides, your kiddie pools, your hoses. Okay, well, they at least granted that, but all water produced by Central Iowa Water Works continues to meet all safe drinking water standards. Is that really the case? What was this scare about? What? I thought the filtration systems couldn't keep up with the fucking nitrate levels. But it's fine now? Everything is okay now? What? But we can't water the lawns. Something is not adding up here. It almost seems like the same corruption that we had in between the Des Moines Water Works, or the Central Water Works, the media, the press, and the state is all still there. Odd. Look, I mean, and here's another article. This is from, I think, last week. June 18th. A couple weeks ago, actually. Metro area splash pads and spray grounds will be allowed to reopen and operate as normal on Wednesday. Last week, CIWW officials announced a ban on lawn watering for 600,000 residential commercial customers the water authority serves. And then at that point they shut down the splash pads, the spray grounds, and the wading pools. But then they reopened them. They reopened the public water. Our water, essentially. So their water is okay. But the private citizen, the individual, still has restrictions. Look, it's similar to COVID. It's similar to this thing that we were just talking about with the cell phones. This is how the state operates. This is how the state gets its shit done. Every time. Read Murray Rothbard. Just read on this subject. Not even on this subject. Just read through history. Look at the Department of Homeland Security. That's a great example. The Department of Homeland Security was created in the wake of 9/11 to combat terrorism. I don't know if this is still the case, but in the COVID years, you know what the Department of Homeland Security's mission became? Combating misinformation. This is what happens every time. You have a disaster, you have something happen, or like in the case of the driving stuff, you have the government creates a problem and then they respond to it. And in their response, they create more laws, more restrictions. I'm reading this book called Never Stop Winning, or something like Never Stop Winning. It's about the first 100. It's by Michael Mouse. It's about the first 100 days of Trump's in office. But one of the quotes I remember is there's a running joke that nothing is more permanent than a temporary government solution. Because that's how it goes. I mean, they have this thing where they're like, oh, hey, we're going to save people with this thing, or we're going to help people with this thing. But there's never a period, because they're continuously responding. Whether the threat level is red, yellow, green, it's there every step of the way. The threat never hits green and they never say, oh, okay, we're done. Be free. Because that's not in their agenda. Because they need to continue to have a reason for people to for them to steal money from people, for taxes to go to them, for them to get funding. They still need that reason, because every action, every government problem, behind that is somebody with a salary. Behind that is someone with a job. And when it comes down to it, that person is going to do everything in their power to keep their job, which in a private market makes sense, right? Like my job I have now, like, even though a lot of days I hate my job, like if it came to like me having the job or me not having the job, like you bet your ass I'm going to keep that job. Or if there's like a way for me to get a better job, if I'm so inclined, or if this podcast were to take, like, yeah, you bet your ass I'm going to do everything I can to better that. If that happens in the government, that comes at the cost of people who are funding this with their tax dollars, with their stolen money. It comes at that cost. And it's really easy for the Des Moines Pig Department or Rob Sand or the Central Iowa Water Works to have all these problems and to address it as, oh, we have this thing that we need to help. We have these people that we need to save. That is not their intention. It is never their intention. Are there individuals in these organizations who feel that way? Sure. I'm not going to deny that. There are definitely people in the organizations who feel that way. I'm not going to say otherwise. But you have to look at the entity as a whole. Because your local cop, your local teacher, they are just a part of a system. They are part of a system where they have unlimited job security. Unless they really fuck up. Even then, they probably will still keep their job because they're desperate for people. And if they do poorly at their job, like, if you're at business and you do bad at your job, you're going to get fired. If you're a public teacher or if you're a cop and you do a bad job, you're just going to get a lecture. Because you have that ability, like the government's never going to go away. Sears went away. Bob's Grocery might shut down. But the police department, but the public school system, these things won't ever go away. They will always be there. So that is the evil system. That is the thing that we need to fight. That is the thing that we need to be talking about. Okay, let's just talk about one last thing, since we got a little time left in the hour, that I just found kind of hilarious. I to be fair, I haven't actually read through this, so because honestly, fuck the Des Moines Register, even though I use them all the time. I started following them on Twitter, and 2/3 of their stories have nothing to do with Iowa, and it's just come on, you're just another edition of the corporate press. The McAllister Hours, the podcasters, this is what we're fighting against. So hell yeah, win for Trump on this one. President Trump, an Iowa Congress member, and a former state lawmaker have sought to dismiss their okay. So they dismissed their former suit, and they refiled a suit in the Iowa State Court okay. Jesus, let me just restart this whole thing, because that sentence that threw me off. I'm like, oh, they didn't have it? Damn, they should be sued. These people suck at reporting. President Donald Trump, an Iowa Congress member, and a former state lawmaker have sought to dismiss their federal lawsuit against the Des Moines Register and a former pollster, and refile the suit in Iowa State Court in the latest legal maneuver to keep the state out of federal court. Ah, shit. Oh, no. Okay. What the hell is going on? Trump sued the Register, its parent company, Gannett, and its former pollster, J. Ann Seltzer, in December 2024 over an Iowa poll released shortly before the November 5 presidential election that allegedly overstated Iowa's support for Trump's opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris. That's crazy. I mean, I don't really care if he sues them or not. Fuck them both. But like, I mean, look, I think it's stupid of Trump to even still care at this point. But at the same time, like, how can any corporate press think that Iowa is going to overwhelmingly support Harris? I mean, look, if you lived in Des Moines and you saw all the signs out on the lawns, I mean, maybe you could kind of think that. But there are still plenty of Trumpers out there. And fuck the primary. Trump he annihilated everyone in the primary. Iowa was literally the first primary, and he smoked everybody. DeSantis, gone. I think DeSantis literally left after. I could be wrong, but I think he literally left after that primary. And you're gonna sell it that that in Iowa, Kamala Harris is gonna be the one that wins. I don't really care if he sues. I think it's stupid for Trump to care as much as he does about the corporate press. But fuck, I'm okay with suing the Des Moines Register. They're our competition, bruh. They are our competition. The podcast scene, the Iowa independent news media. As I say with my blood gear on. These are the people that we need to be fighting against. So yeah, win for Trump. Sue the Des Moines Register. Fuck them. I feel like I got one more thing I could probably talk about, but I don't really feel like it. So I'm not. Yeah. Cameron signed an anti-Semitism order. Shocking. That's really about it. Okay, guys. That's the podcast. Might as well wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna try to get on here at least one more time this week to do a fun little game live stream. I played some Fallout heavily modded last week. A lot of people tuned in. It was a fun time. So I am hoping that we can maybe do that again. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday. It'd probably be either tomorrow or Thursday because we got the holiday. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you guys like what we do, like, subscribe.